What's up, everybody? It's Kevin. I'm back. I've had a long layoff. Been really busy with a lot of stuff. Had a lot of also a lot of technical difficulties with kind of my different microphones that I've been changing, and had some connection issues with cameras and stuff. So I've decided to finally come back, start doing some streams and stuff here. And I figured I would do my first stream. This is actually my first official stream on YouTube, the YouTube Studio or whatever it is, and I thought it would address the dropping out of Elizabeth Warren from the presidential primary and the who is she going to endorse and stuff. So as many of you guys know, she did decide to finally drop out. She finally made that decision after I don't know how long it's been, weeks, days, however long, of people wondering when she's gonna finally do it. It took her. I'm guessing the reason that it took her so long is because she wanted to kind of see where where all the other candidates were gonna be as far as like the delegate count and everything. I didn't really see the purpose in doing that because it just seemed like doesn't even seem like anybody that looks at the the math can see that Bernie Sanders and Joe Biden are clearly way ahead, and she's like coming up in what is it, third, fourth, and fifth in like every state, and based on how she did on the on Super Tuesday, she didn't even win any states on Super Tuesday, let alone her own state of Massachusetts. So yeah, that's a big deal. If you can't even win your own fucking state, that's a problem. So she finally decided to drop out. Now the question is, who is she going to endorse? Is she going to endorse Bernie Sanders? Is she going to endorse Joe Biden? What is she going to do? And honestly, I don't really know. And the thing with me and like the thing with Elizabeth Warren and kind of my view of her over the however many years she's been around. Was it been now 6, 7 years she's been around, and that's only mainly if you include her time in the Senate, because before that she was whatever an advisor for Obama, and then she got the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau through, and that was her idea and stuff. So she was a close advisor to Obama on that. But as far as her political career, I've always been very very weary of who she is, what positions she holds. Does she is she really a true progressive? And it's just the every day that goes by, especially during this primary, every day that goes by, every year, every month, every week, she just continues to convince me more and more that she is not a progressive and that she never really was. And whatever views that she held was mostly for grifting, so that she could get a rise up in the get a rise up in the kind of her status, the progressive, the status of on the progressive wing, get a lot of recognition. um and mainly I say that based on the fact that this primary, she's just gotten more and more centrist and more sucking up to the establishment. I mean, if you watch her, she constantly, like her, I mean, aside from like, and it's not like her policies have necessarily changed, other than like, I mean, she was never really for Medicare for all anyway. So it's not like to say like, oh my God, all of a sudden she's against Medicare for all. She was never really for Medicare for all. She was in favor of I, I guess this, I somewhat idea of Medicare for all, in the sense that she was for it because she wanted to, get the support from the progressives, and then just kind of shiv them and just give tell them to fuck off if they don't support what she wants to do, don't support her ultimate policy on healthcare. So I think she just used that as a springboard to get to get herself higher up into the higher echelons of the progressive movement. And mainly I say that because she has pretty much gotten away from those policies the more the progressive the more the primary has gone on, and she's gotten less progressive. And that's not just on healthcare policy. That's just one of the main things. The only thing she seems to be mainly consistent on when it comes to being like I guess so-called progressive is when she pushes for economic policy. But everything else is pretty much run of the mill establishment Democrat policy, and it's not. That's the issue. The issue is that you're not, maintaining any kind of consistency when it comes to specific policies that really matter to progressives and the left wing of the Democratic Party, the what we call the base of the Democratic Party. So that's an issue for a lot of people out there that are that are gonna they're going to wonder where are you on these different policies, and it becomes a serious problem for a lot of us, and it's definitely become a problem for me. But when it comes to what I've felt about her all these years, is just I just never could really trust that she could be a true progressive. It was just hard to like buy into that mentality because she was so because she never she never wanted to be the Bernie type progressive or the Bernie type democratic socialist. Obviously, she doesn't even want to be a democratic socialist. She believes in capitalism. She wants to be a player in the game, as she said. She said all these things. So she's clarified her ideological positions as far as what she considers her ideology and what she considers herself to be as far as a where is she on the political spectrum, right? And we can get into the foreign policy stuff and all this stuff, but that's another conversation for another day. I'm not necessarily trying to get into this specific policy ideas that she has, because we've gone through them. I've done that on my podcast my podcast and my shows in the past many times. This is mainly just focusing on her her dropping out and her and who her possible endorsement is going to be. Now, I've listened to a couple of people. I've listened to Kyle Klinsky from Secular Talk. I've listened to Crystal Ball from The Rising, and a couple, a bunch of other people on Twitter and stuff that I'm following, and I'm connected with and everything. The kind of the Bernie Sanders progressive community on Twitter, and I'm the kind of person that I have an open mind. I like to listen to all different kinds of voices, and it honestly just does not seem like she's going to support Bernie Sanders ultimately in this primary. Now, you can go out there. So this is an argument that Crystal Ball made. Crystal Ball, who I love, and she's a great progressive, voice. And she said, like, Bernie Sanders should offer her the VP position. And I don't agree with that. I don't agree that that Elizabeth Warren deserves that position. At most, she deserves maybe Secretary of the Treasury, and then she can make of that what you will. She can make her the best out of that position that she can. But she doesn't deserve the VP position. That's just not. I don't believe that. I don't think she is worthy of it. But when it comes to the conversation of who is she going to, like, what is she ultimately going to be? What is she, what is her ultimate position going to be, within the progressive movement that I don't even think she's really part of anymore? It's really, really hard to say, because it depends on what she's going to say and what she's going to do. What is she going to, which side is she going to take? Of course, is she going to endorse Bernie? So now that comes to endorsing Bernie. Is she going to endorse Bernie Sanders? I don't think so. And the more the days go on, just like with her, her kind of progressive bona fides, and her status among the progressive community, she continues to distance herself away from that, that coalition. And when it comes to endorsing Bernie Sanders, the more the days go on, the less I believe that's going to happen, because especially after when she was calling Bernie Sanders a sexist, and that they had a private conversation where she said that a woman can't become president, blah 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 blah, all that bullshit that she said, the night before one of the debates. What was it, like the second to last debate or something, or whatever, third to last debate that we've had, and she came out with that information, and everybody was like, "Holy shit, what the fuck!" Like, it came out of complete nowhere, and and then so, like, I heard Kyle Klinsky from Secular Talk about it, and he said, endorsements are important. He said, at first I never really believed that they were important, but when it came to the endorsements that Amy Klobuchar and Pete Buttigieg and all these people gave to Joe Biden, that obviously gave him a big boost on Super Tuesday, and unfortunately, Joe Biden had a really good night on Super Tuesday. Outside of Bernie Sanders winning California, or my home state here, He didn't really win any really big states. Didn't win Massachusetts. Didn't win Texas. None of that. So obviously endorsements matter. But when it comes to Elizabeth Warren and whether she's going to support, whether she's going to endorse Bernie, I just don't see it happening. And that possibility, or that my prediction of her possibly not endorsing him, I think was bolstered by the fact that she went on Rachel Maddow's show tonight. It was at I think 6 o'clock, California time. She went on her show and she was whining about all these, oh my god, all these Bernie bros, all these toxic supporters, all these terrible Bernie people that attacked her and said mean things about her, snake emojis and this and that, blah blah blah. So she went on there to basically to throw a pity party on the Democrats main favorite channel, favorite propaganda network essentially. And it probably worked, and it probably convinced a lot of people that support her to not support Bernie Sanders. Now, to be fair, a lot of people are coming out on Twitter and saying, "Yeah, I support Bernie Sanders. Yeah, I'm moving from Bernie. What is the hashtag Warren to Bernie or something on Twitter?" And that's a good thing. That's a great thing. And I just want to say that I said this on Twitter too. I fully support all the people that are moving from supporting Elizabeth Warren to supporting Bernie Sanders. There was a couple people that did it a little bit sooner, but apparently, like, it's happening a lot more today. I think mainly. I don't think it was yesterday because she just drop? Yeah, she just dropped out of the race today. So yeah, so it's been happening a lot more today for sure. More of the prominent ones. A couple of the more prominent ones were happening like a week ago, 2 weeks ago, because they saw the writing on the wall essentially, and that she was going nowhere. But when it comes to that whole process, I fully support and appreciate all the people that are moving from Warren to Bernie Sanders. A lot of them say, "Oh, I love Elizabeth Warren, but she doesn't have a path, and I support Bernie Sanders." Thank you, I appreciate that. And it's not the voters that I have an issue. It's not the. I don't like to voter shame. I'm not like these fucking asshole centrists out there who are saying, "Oh, you better support Bernie Sanders and you better support this person, you better support that person." I'm voter shame, all that shit. Can't stand that because that's what I went through. That's what a lot of progressives out there that that I know definitely went through. All the progressives out there, they know about that bullshit. So we know how that shit goes, and we don't want to be hypocrites and voter shame people when they're the ones who voter shamed us. If anything, we just do it, as a mocking thing. Like, hey, are you going to support the nominee? Are you going to do it? Are you going to do it? Because that's all they said about us when, Hillary Clinton was the nominee in 2016 after she rigged the primary. And we were expected to fall in line and do that. So are they going to fall in line? Who knows? But that's besides the point. But as far as Elizabeth Warren, I just don't see her supporting Bernie Sanders. Their relationship is completely fractured. I wouldn't say the bridge is completely burned, but it's burning. I mean, and it's not burning in the Bernie Sanders way. It's burning in the bad way. It's burning in the, you're burning the bridge and you're burning the river under it, basically, as they say, as the saying I believe goes. And she's making things worse and worse every single day. And going on Rachel Maddow to go and complain about all these mean Bernie bros is you're not doing yourself any good. All you're doing is you're making yourself look more bitter and more spiteful. And what you're doing is you're worrying about yourself. You're blaming everybody else for your lot in life, and you're trying to come up with a way to victimize yourself and be like, "Oh my God, look how mean everybody is." And this is everything. All the progressives and leftists out there mock this, but people go on Twitter and they're like, "Oh my God, there's just no way I can support Bernie Sanders. He's been so mean to what is it? The Bernie Sanders supporters are so mean, so I can't support Bernie Sanders." Or they just say it in a really casual way, like, "Oh, I support what Bernie Sanders is doing. I appreciate his his ideology and the policies that he's pushing for. But sorry, his supporters are too mean. They're way too mean. I can't support him because of his supporters." So it's like, what? How could you possibly take these people seriously when they're just going out there and they're just whining about how everything is like, they're just coming up with every possible excuse to just be like pricks and just like whine about how everything that goes on in their life is terrible because God forbid somebody criticizes them or attacks them or criticizes or attacks their candidates or their whatever, the people that they support. Whether it's Hillary Clinton, Elizabeth Warren, I don't know who, throw out any whatever candidate out there. Joe Biden, even these days, yeah. God forbid anybody attacks Joe Biden now. You can't do that. Now they're going to victimize him too. Of course, that hasn't happened as much or as quickly as the likes of various female candidates. Kamala Harris was another one. So yeah, but of course they don't use that same mentality when it comes to Tulsi Gabbard. Anybody can attack they can attack Tulsi Gabbard, smear her as a Russian agent all day and all night, no problem. But yeah, but listen, it's when it comes to this whole situation, I don't trust Elizabeth Warren. I do not trust her to make the right decision. I do not trust her to be a serious progressive. And this is something that Kyle Kalinske said. If she goes out there and supports, let's say, endorses Joe Biden, she honestly never supported the policies that she claims to have supported all this time. So when it comes to banking regulations, when it like economic issues, so healthcare, whatever, environment, all that stuff, minimum wage, making a living wage, the minimum wage, a living wage, all these various issues, Black Lives Matter, so like kind of racial issues. She really didn't support this stuff because why would you? How do we know you support that when you're going and supporting a guy a guy like Joe Biden who supported the fucking crime bill, authored the fucking crime bill. They practically named the crime bill in 1994 after him. And I saw a video today and he was talking about how, no, I don't apologize for, I think it was an interview he did a while back. No, I don't apologize for authoring and whatever, essentially spearheading the crime bill. Oh, wow. Well, thanks a lot, bro. That's really nice of you. You can't even admit something you did clearly that was wrong. And if you watch speeches from him, he's just going to town on the Senate talking about it. We need to put an end to all this terrible, criminals out there that are coming over to innocent people and beating them over the head with pipes and bats and fucking who the hell knows what he was talking. It was just so like incoherent and just going like saying ridiculous shit. So anyway, so yeah, but my point is that if Elizabeth Warren ends up supporting somebody like Joe Biden after everything that he's pushed for as far as his policies, then and it's clearly the complete opposite of what you claim to have supported all this time, then you never really supported it. You never really supported those things that you came out and guns blazing talking about how you want to do all these things that the American people want. So you really didn't do that. So all you really want to do, let's just be real, all you want to do, as you said yourself, is you want to be a player in the game. You want to be a player in the game, and you want to just play nice with all the Democrats. And if you watch that Rachel Maddow interview, whining about how everybody's attacking her and being uncivil and being toxic and stuff, all she's worried about is just whining about decorum and just trying to play nice with her. Just play patty cakes. Here, just play patty cakes with everybody. That's all it really is. And she just wants, and she's getting these orders, by the way, from the Democratic Party. We know this, not surprising. She's getting orders from the Democratic Party to be like this and to say these things. They're telling her, like, listen, Liz, you need to get in line here. You need to do what we want. You need to push for the same things we want because we don't want these Bernie bros to take over the party. They're very scared of people like us taking over the party. They don't want that shit happening because if it happens, then it means that the entire scope of the Democratic Party changes and it becomes Bernie's party, and they can't have that. And it's the same exact thing to some extent that's happened with with Donald Trump and the Republican Party. The Republican Party has become Trump's party to the extent that it's a party that is not the same as it was before, with a bunch of fucking robots like Marco Rubio and Mitt Romney and all these other John Kasich and all these Scott Walker and all these people running it, where they're just like, I will say this. This is how I talk. I look very civil. I talk very nicely, even while I support bombing brown people and killing unarmed black men. Like, what I'm saying? Like, these are people that don't, like, their policies are always the same. If you look at all the different politicians out there that are, all the different, Senate members of the Senate and Congress and stuff, they support Donald Trump 80-90% of the time, but they just don't like that he uses bad words and he's not civil and he doesn't use the typical decorum of every politician. So this is the same exact thing that the Democrats are doing, if not more. Really, probably more. Actually, yeah, definitely a lot more. Because there's a lot of Republicans out there that are kind of embracing Trumpism in a sense of like how he acts and his demeanor and whatnot. But Democrats are fully on board with this whole civility police shit. And this is not something that the Bernie Sanders supporters want. It is not something that I want. It's not something I want to be a part of. And I'm sick of it. And I've been sick of it for a long time. So whatever ends up happening in that regard, we're going to be pushing back against it. So get ready, guys. We are going to be headed for a crazy next, what is it, couple, what is it, March right now? At least a few months for sure until, June. Get, hopefully we get the nomination for Bernie. We got to work really hard. We should have won Texas. We should have won Massachusetts on Super Tuesday. Luckily, we got California. We got my state. I'm very happy about that, but that's just not enough. We need to do a hell of a lot more. And this fight from now until June, even after June, going into the convention and stuff, it's going to be a bloody fucking fight. So get ready for that shit. It is going to be crazy. Elizabeth Warren honestly, in my opinion, can do whatever the fuck she wants. I don't give a shit, and I'm just sick of trying to give this woman a chance. I've given her chance after chance after chance. We all have done that. Just speaking on behalf of myself, though, I have done that, and I never really even gave her the biggest chances to prove herself, but I gave her chances, and I'm done with that. And I'm not gonna do that anymore. So she can go, on MSNBC and do all her crying and whining about how people have been mean to her, and we're going to keep doing what we're doing as far as pushing for progressive policies and pushing for the movement to become Bernie's movement and for Bernie to run this Democratic Party and blow it up and start the revolution that we need. And that's what it's going to be. And anybody that doesn't want that, get the fuck off the wagon, because we're not gonna move forward. We're not gonna be waiting here and waiting for you to get on board if you don't want to be on board. So get the fuck off, and we're gonna move forward and do what we got to do. So that's all I got to say about that.